Welcome back, cosmic explorers. Today we're diving into one of the most entertaining subgenres of science fiction, HFY, or as the community lovingly calls it, humanity effort, yeah. If you're new here, HFY stories celebrate what makes humans special when compared to other theoretical alien species. And not just special in a we have democracy way, but in ways that are often hilariously unexpected. So grab your coffee, that neurotoxin we humans can't seem to live without, and let's explore what makes Earth's oddest species, the galaxy's greatest nightmare and most valuable ally. Before we dive into our main story, let's talk about what makes HFY such a fascinating genre. In a universe filled with advanced alien civilizations, you might expect humans to be the underdogs. After all, we're a relatively young species, confined to a single solar system, with fragile bodies and short lifespans. But what makes HFY stories so compelling is how they turn these apparent weaknesses into our greatest strengths. Think about it. We're adaptable precisely because we evolved on a planet with wildly varying conditions. We're innovative because we don't have natural defenses. We're resilient because we've had to be. And we're just crazy enough to try things that more evolved species would consider suicidal. The HFY genre often portrays aliens as specialized, perfect for their ecological niche, but unable to handle change. Humans, on the other hand, are the ultimate generalists, masters of adaptation rather than specialization. And in a chaotic universe, that's our superpower. Now, let's imagine a scenario where representatives from across the galaxy gather to discuss the latest species to join the galactic community, humans. What might that conversation look like? Well, buckle up, because it's about to get weird. The High Galactic Council was in an uproar. The latest species to be discovered, humans, was causing unprecedented commotion among the most advanced civilizations in the sector. "They eat what?" squeaked Representative Xylorg, a gelatinous creature from Proxima Centauri. "Basically, anything," responded Admiral Tekra hesitantly, consulting her notes. "They consume plants, animals, fungi, and some substances that are technically poisons." "Poisons?" "Yes, there's a beverage called coffee containing a neurotoxin they consume daily. In fact, they become irritable when they don't consume it, and another called alcohol that literally damages their brains temporarily, for fun. Let's pause here and appreciate how our morning routines would terrify alien species. That cup of joe you're sipping? Pure horror show for beings who've evolved without our unique biology. And let's not even get started on our weekend activities. Imagine explaining to a sophisticated alien society that humans deliberately ferment fruits and grains until they produce compounds that temporarily impair our neural functions, then voluntarily consume these compounds in social gatherings, often followed by making poor decisions and feeling physically ill the next day. And yet we consider this practice not just acceptable, but an integral part of our cultures worldwide. Or try explaining spicy food. Yes, that burning sensation. It's actually pain receptors firing. No, it's not causing damage. Yes, we seek out this pain deliberately. Why? Because it's fun? The concept would be utterly baffling to species that evolved with more straightforward relationships to pain and pleasure. And caffeine? A compound that plants evolved specifically to kill insects that tried to eat them. And we just brew it up every morning, developing such a dependency that without it, we can barely function. From an outside perspective, it looks less like a beverage choice and more like a species-wide addiction. What we consider Tuesday morning is basically an extreme sport for most of the galaxy. But wait, it gets better. "Surely this explains their erratic behavior," said Ambassador Noor 7, a gaseous entity contained in a mechanical suit. "How many hours do they spend in hibernation to recover from these poisons?" "Well, they call it sleeping, and they do it for only a third of their daily cycle." "1/3?" exclaimed Councillor Cathorn, a crystalline being who required only 1 minute of energy recharge every decade. The councillor almost shattered from shock. "How do they maintain their civilizations functioning?" "Actually, they're quite productive. They went from primitive flight to lunar exploration in just 66 years of their calendar," The revelation sent shockwaves through the council chamber. Species that had taken millennia to develop space travel were confronted with the unsettling reality of a race that seemed to operate in fast forward. Imagine being an immortal, crystalline being that recharges for just 1 minute per decade, and discovering that these squishy water bags who poison themselves for fun and are unconscious for 8 hours every day somehow managed to go from the Wright brothers to Neil Armstrong in less time than some alien species take to decide on their holiday destinations. For many aliens, this would be like watching a toddler solve complex quantum equations while simultaneously setting itself on fire for amusement. The combination of self-destructive behaviors and rapid advancement would be a terrifying paradox. And there's more, Tekra continued, visibly uncomfortable. They live in almost every biome on their planet, from frozen regions to scorching deserts. With special suits, I presume? Asked Xylorg. Basically, fabric clothing. Sometimes they dive into frozen water. For fun. Fun! The collective gasp of the council members created a momentary vacuum in the chamber. Let's talk about human endurance for a moment. We can survive temperature ranges that would make most alien species malfunction completely. We evolved on a planet where temperatures can vary by over 100 degrees Celsius depending on location and season. Most species in the galaxy would consider it uninhabitable, requiring complex environmental suits just to survive. But humans? We might complain about it being a bit chilly, or rather warm, and then simply add or remove a layer of clothing. To temperature-sensitive aliens, our casual relationship with thermal extremes would be nothing short of miraculous. And water. Water is where humans really shine in the Galactic oddity department. Most species might view water as either a habitat or a deadly hazard. But humans? We drink it, we bathe in it, we swim in it for recreation, we freeze it and add it to beverages, we heat it to clean things, we harness its power for energy. Our relationship with H2O is complex and intimate in ways that would make many aliens deeply uncomfortable. Then, there's our relationship with physical exertion. Humans are pursuit predators. That's right. While most predators in the galaxy rely on ambush or speed, humans evolved to literally chase prey until it collapses from exhaustion. We're basically the horror movie monsters of the galaxy. We don't run fast, but we never stop coming. Think about how terrifying that would be. In the words of horror writer Josh Wheaton, the humans can't run very fast. The thing is, they don't stop, ever. They sleep for only a few hours a day. They're not like us. A human will chase you through the night, and they don't tire like we do. To a species that relies on quick bursts of speed, the concept of marathon running would be incomprehensible. You mean they just keep going? For 42 kilometers, voluntarily, without stopping? And this isn't for hunting or survival, but fun? They have activities called extreme sports, where they deliberately put themselves in mortal danger. Also for fun, Tekra added. Bungee jumping, rock climbing without equipment, hot pepper eating contests, ultramarathons through deserts, free diving to crushing depths. All of these would be considered forms of insanity or ritualistic suicide. To species that evolved with more self-preservation instincts than us thrill-seeking humans. And let's not even get started on human medical capabilities. Our ability to heal is remarkable by galactic standards. We can break bones and recover. We can lose substantial amounts of blood and survive. We can even have entire organs removed and continue living relatively normal lives. Imagine explaining human surgery to an alien. Yes, we deliberately render ourselves unconscious, then allow other humans to cut us open with sharp implements, remove or repair damaged components, and then sew us back together. And most of the time, it works. For many species, this would be like hearing about a computer repairing itself by first shutting down, allowing its components to be ripped out and replaced, and then somehow booting back up good as new. It defies their understanding of biology. The council doors opened, and the first human ambassador entered, chewing something. Sorry I'm late, folks! There was a little stand selling something called Xorplak fritters outside, and I couldn't resist. A bit spicy, but nothing some antacid won't fix. For context, Xorplaque is known throughout the galaxy as the most potent corrosive acid in that quadrant. To aliens, watching a human casually consume it would be like watching someone drink battery acid while commenting on its tangy aftertaste. The ambassador noticed the stunned silence. Did I miss something important? I brought some Earth snacks if anyone's hungry. I've got chocolate, some cheese, these spicy chips my kid loves. What the ambassador didn't realize was that each of these simple snacks represented biological warfare to various council members. Chocolate, deadly poison to several species. Cheese, literally rotted mammary secretions. And those innocent-looking, spicy chips covered in compounds designed by plants to cause pain as a defense mechanism. So, the ambassador smiled, pulling out a thermos. Anyone want coffee? I brought enough for everyone. And that's how humanity gained its first permanent seat on the council. No one else wanted to be in that wing of the building anymore. The ultimate diplomatic victory, achieved not through military might or economic power, but through our extraordinary ability to terrify aliens with our morning beverage preferences. But the story doesn't end there. As humans began integrating into galactic society, more peculiarities came to light, causing equal parts fascination and horror throughout the interstellar community. Take human emotional capabilities, for instance. Most advanced species evolved to minimize emotional volatility, seeing it as inefficient and potentially dangerous. Humans, meanwhile, can experience profound grief and ecstatic joy within minutes of each other. We create art specifically designed to make ourselves sad. We watch horror movies to feel fear in safe environments. We deliberately seek out emotional extremes that other species spend their evolutionary history trying to eliminate. They have an entire entertainment industry dedicated to making themselves feel emotions, reported one baffled xenoanthropologist. They call it fiction. They know these scenarios aren't real, and yet they voluntarily expose themselves to narratives that cause distress, fear, and sorrow. The concept of fiction itself proved puzzling to many alien cultures. You mean they deliberately tell falsehoods for entertainment? And everyone knows they're falsehoods, but pretends they aren't while simultaneously knowing they are? The logic loops this created in some hive mind species caused the equivalent of kernel panics throughout entire civilizations. Human music was another source of galactic bewilderment. While many species developed rhythmic communication, humans took it to extremes that seemed pathological to outside observers. They use music to deliberately manipulate their emotional states, noted one researcher. They have categories called sad songs that they listen to when already sad, apparently, to intensify the experience, and workout music designed to increase physical performance, and most bafflingly, relaxing music that slows their biological processes. So it's a form of self-drugging? Asked a concerned council member. Essentially, yes. And they're so addicted to it that many humans experience extreme distress if forced to endure silence for extended periods. The concept of pets also caused considerable confusion among galactic societies. The idea that humans would bring potentially dangerous wild animals into their homes, provide for all their needs, form emotional attachments to them, and receive no practical benefit in return was deeply puzzling to efficiency-minded species. You mean to tell me, clarified one incredulous alien diplomat, that humans allocate resources to non-human, non-sentient creatures solely for companionship? And they clean up these creatures' waste products by hand, and they continue this practice even when the creatures become old and no longer function properly? When informed that humans often spend enormous resources on medical care for these pets, even when it would be more efficient to replace them, the diplomat's translation matrix simply refused to process the information, displaying the alien equivalent of a blue screen of death. Human reproduction and child-rearing practices sparked perhaps the greatest controversies in xenobiological circles. The fact that human offspring require decades of care before reaching self-sufficiency seemed like an evolutionary disaster to species whose young mature within days or weeks. Their reproduction strategy makes no mathematical sense, insisted one alien evolutionary biologist. They produce very few offspring, invest massive resources in each one, and have no guarantee of genetic success. It's as though they're actively trying to go extinct. What this analysis missed, of course, was the extraordinary adaptability that comes from extended childhood learning. While other species are born with most of their behaviors genetically predetermined, humans rely on cultural transmission of knowledge, a slower but ultimately more flexible approach to species survival. And then there's human warfare, perhaps the most terrifying aspect of humanity from an alien perspective. Most advanced civilizations outgrow violent conflict, seeing it as inefficient and counterproductive. Humans, however, have developed warfare into an art form. Their military history reveals a species that constantly innovates new ways to destroy itself, reported one horrified security analyst. And yet, paradoxically, these same conflicts drive their technological advancement at rates that should be impossible. You mean they develop their most sophisticated technologies specifically to harm each other? Asked a council member. Initially, yes, but then, and this is the truly bizarre part, they adapt these same technologies for peaceful purposes afterward. Their global communication network, medical imaging technologies, nuclear power, even their space program, all originated from military research. This peculiar combination of destructiveness and creativity seemed contradictory to most alien psychologies. How could a species be simultaneously so bent on self-destruction and so ingeniously focused on progress? The answer, many xenologists concluded, lay in humanity's evolutionary history as both predator and prey, competitor and cooperator. We developed aggression to survive, but also empathy to form social bonds. We created weapons to hunt, but also tools to build. This duality makes us unpredictable, but also uniquely adaptable. So what you're saying, summarized one elder council, member after months of debate, is that humans are essentially the galactic equivalent of a multi-purpose tool, crude but versatile. They're not the best at anything specific, but they can do almost everything adequately. Precisely, confirmed the research team. They're generalists in a galaxy of specialists, and that makes them both valuable allies and potentially dangerous adversaries. But all jokes aside, what makes HFY stories so compelling is how they flip our perceived weaknesses into strengths. In the grand cosmic scale, our adaptability means we can thrive anywhere. Our omnivorous diet means we can survive on almost any resources. Our endurance makes us unstoppable in the long run. Our emotional range gives us motivation that logic-driven species might lack. Our creativity allows us to find solutions where others see only problems. Our curiosity and risk-taking drive innovation at speeds that confound other species. Our contradictory nature makes us unpredictable in ways that can be advantageous. In these stories, humanity doesn't win because we have the biggest guns or the fastest chips. We win because we're the crazy species willing to try absolutely anything once, survive things that should kill us, and keep coming back for more. Consider how humans might approach first contact compared to other species. A logical, cautious, alien civilization might spend decades studying us from afar before making their presence known. They'd establish careful protocols, risk assessments, and contingency plans. Humans? We'd be more likely to broadcast, "Hello, anyone out there?" into space, and upon receiving a response, immediately invite the aliens over for barbecue and beers. With minimal concern about whether our new guests might consider us the main course rather than dinner companions. This reckless openness might seem suicidal from a strategic perspective, but it also creates possibilities for genuine connection that more cautious approaches might never achieve. Sometimes the most logical approach isn't the most effective one. What I love most about HFY stories is how they celebrate our uniqueness without falling into the trap of simple human supremacy. They acknowledge our flaws, our short lives, our infragile bodies, our emotional volatility, but show how those very limitations have forged us into something remarkable. In a universe of specialized species, humans are the ultimate generalists. Not the strongest, not the smartest, not the fastest, but arguably the most interesting dinner guests in the galaxy. If you can stomach watching us eat and drink things that would dissolve most alien digestive systems. And perhaps most importantly, HFY stories remind us of a truth we often forget. What seems ordinary to us might be extraordinary to others. Our everyday resilience, our capacity for hope in dark times, our ability to find humor in absurdity, these mundane human traits might well be our greatest gifts to a galactic community. As one fictional alien observer noted in a popular HFY story, humans are terrifying not because they're monsters, but because they refuse to be monstrous even when it would be easier. They choose compassion when logic dictates cruelty. They choose hope when reason demands despair. And somehow, against all evolutionary sense, this irrational optimism works for them. So next time you pour your morning coffee, take a moment to appreciate your place in the universe as a member of a species that casually consumes neurotoxins for breakfast, then goes on to accomplish impossible things before lunch. In the grand cosmic story, we might just be the wild card that makes things interesting. If you enjoyed this exploration of humanity, you more hit that subscribe button for more sci-fi deep dives. Next week, we're looking at the evolution of AI characters in modern science fiction, from villains to heroes and everything in between. Until then, keep being wonderfully, terrifyingly human.